The young lady has lost her memory. She clings to me and acts spoiled. Honey, give me a kiss. I'm so frightened that I can't move. After all, she and I are sworn enemies. Her eyes glisten with mischief. She kisses me in a teasing way. Her kiss makes my face flush and my heart race. I'm too nervous. I forget to pull away from her. I think about it for a moment. Her memory loss is actually quite pitiful, so I decided not to hold it against her. With swollen lips from her kiss, I go outside to get her some water. When I turn around and come back, I hear her talking to a friend on the phone. Are you sure pretending to have amnesia will win him over? Last time, you made me pretend to be a cold, noble lady, but when he saw me, he became even more resistant. It's all your fault. You almost made me lose my husband. Her friend on the other side says, don't worry, this time it's guaranteed. It's a sure thing. The young lady asks, really? Really? I had a master read the stars. Just wait for the wedding. I'm left dumbfounded. Shen Yue and I come from two of the most prestigious families in the capital. Our families have always been at odds. It's not because of business competition, but because my dad and her dad are rivals in love. My mom is the unattainable woman that Shen Yue's dad loved, his white moonlight. I'm not sure if it's intentional by the Song family, but they bought a villa directly across from our house. This led my dad to warn me from a young age. He brainwashed me into thinking that the Song father and daughter were no good. They're not only bad. My dad thought for a moment and added, they're even worse. I'm speechless. After hearing this for years, my impression of Shen Yue has naturally never been good. It wasn't that I disliked her. It was just that I didn't have a good impression of her. Who would have thought that Shen Yue would keep provoking me every day? Back in school, we went to the same school. She was known as the school bully. She had wealth, beauty, and a group of loyal friends behind her. No one dared to provoke her. As soon as I got close to any girl, she would bring her friends and cause trouble. She'd pull the girls I liked into corners. I didn't even know what she was warning them about. It made me lose my chance at love several times. Without even starting a relationship, I was really upset. But she would just follow behind me, laughing loudly. I turned around and angrily asked her, is it because your dad can't have my mom that you're getting back at me every day? Don't you want me to be with the person I like? You jerk! Shen Yui's smile slowly faded from her face. Her beautiful eyes flickered, clearly at a loss. She seemed flustered. After that time, she stopped acting like a clingy stalker and bothering me. She even disappeared from my life completely. My friends told me she transferred to another school. She bought an apartment near the school. So every time I went home, I never saw her again. The next time we met, it was 3 years later at a charity gala. As soon as I walked in, my attention was immediately drawn to the elegant, aloof Shen Yue at the center of the event. I was slightly stunned. It had been 3 years since we last saw each other. The girl who used to be so arrogant and domineering was now wearing a custom-made evening gown. Her presence was striking. Calm and composed, she was chatting with a group of seasoned business moguls. She held a wine glass in her hand, casually standing there. Her figure was nothing short of perfect. Her body was alluring, with graceful curves, long, slender legs. The men around her couldn't help but gaze at her with admiring eyes. I let out a soft sigh. If I hadn't grown up with her and known what kind of person she truly was, I'd probably be drawn to her too. Undeniably, she was indeed very charming now. She seemed to catch a glimpse of me from the corner of her eye. All of my properties to Chen Zi. I love him very much. If I betray him, I'll have nothing left. Please, Auntie, trust me with him. I poked Shen Yue. Are you crazy? Giving me everything? I looked at my mom. What I meant was, just not everything. Her lips curled into a barely noticeable smile. How could you give it all to me? My mom smiled gently. Since you two are sincere, we accept the property you're transferring. I widened my eyes in surprise. I thought my mom would refuse, but she actually accepted it happily. I looked at my dad. He stood behind my mom, looking wrong. See, what did I tell you? When I married your mom, I gave all my assets to her. She subtly turned her gaze toward me. Your mom said it. When a man has money, he becomes bad. My dad mumbled. Who would believe this? I, a big boss, don't even have $10 in my pocket. No money to buy cigarettes. It made me quit my smoking habit. My mom gave my dad a glance. My dad quickly covered his mouth. Honey, I was wrong. Her eyes locked onto mine. I'll kneel and scrub the floor myself. After both families finished talking, Uncle Song pulled my dad up from the floor. Buddy, you don't need to worry. I've already let go. I love my wife very much now. Don't be angry. The grudges of the previous generation, don't let them affect the next generation. Our stairs became tangled after Uncle Song and my dad talked. I escorted Shen Yue and Uncle Song out. I was a bit confused and asked Shen Yue, how come? My dad agreed to us being together so easily? I thought it would be much harder. I expected her to make a big fuss. Shen Yue smiled and lightly tapped my nose. It's not about your dad. It's about your mom. This family is run by your mom. I quickly turned my face away in fear. She understands this family better than I do. The tension ended, and then, 6 months later, we went to register our marriage, took wedding certificate photos. Shen Yue and I both wore simple white shirts. The photographer said, look at the camera. Bride, you're smiling so wide, your mouth's about to rip. Enemies crossing paths. Can you tone it down a little? Yes, that's right. Bride, you're too close to the groom. Are you trying to lean on him? Yes, that's better. This is the right distance. Perfect. Click. The moment was captured, marking the happiness in our marriage certificate photo. Shen Yue gently held my hand in my memory, looking at me with deep affection. When I'm with you, although I'm awkward, but my love for you is sincere. And that's it. The end of the story. Every time I met her, it never ended well. I certainly didn't want to interact with her. I found a corner, keeping my distance from her. I thought to myself, I'll leave quickly when the time is right. It had been so long. A voice so familiar it almost hurt came from behind me. Here it comes as expected. I took a deep breath. My smile was forced and didn't last long. It's only been 3 years. After saying that, I quickly made to leave, but she stepped forward, naturally grabbing my wrist. Her voice, tinged with laughter, still had that familiarity after all. We were childhood friends. You're so cold to me. I'm really hurt. Everyone in our circle knew our families didn't get along. When they saw Shen Yue holding onto me, they watched us with amused eyes, thinking we'd definitely start fighting. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of watching the drama. Even though I was growing increasingly impatient, I still had to deal with it. I turned to face Shen Yue, my eyes curved into crescents, knowing everyone was watching. What are you trying to start now? Ahem. Shen Yue didn't respond. She pulled my hand and yanked me closer. Before I knew it, I was right in front of her. I stared at her beautiful face, now just inches away. I instinctively felt a bit tense, but she wrapped her arms around my waist. I wanted to pull back, and suddenly threw herself into me. She whispered about what she'd been up to these past 3 years. The key point being that she hadn't been in any relationships. Shen Yue's actions left everyone around us frozen in shock, and I, damn it, was no better. Why was she telling me all this? I thought she must have lost her mind. I pushed her away with force, but it made me lose my balance. I stumbled and nearly fell to the ground. She caught me and gently sat me on the sofa, kneeling in front of me on one knee. She took my ankle in her hands. She began massaging it softly. Her eyes welled up, and she looked so pained. Even though my ankle was only slightly bruised, she looked up at me, asking, "Does it hurt?" My mind was a mess. Of course, nothing good ever happens when I run into her. I pulled my foot away from her grasp. I was about to warn her to stay away from me when my phone rang. I glanced at the caller ID. I picked up the call. A smile unconsciously tugged at the corners of my lips. A soft voice greeted me. "I'm still out, but I'll call you when I get home." After hanging up the phone, Shen Yue sneered. "Who was that?" She smiled so sweetly. Without thinking, I blurted out, "It's my online dating partner. We're planning to meet in a few days." As soon as I said that, I realized something was off. What did I just say? I stood up and started to leave, but I heard Shen Yue muttering through gritted teeth. "I've been so careful, so cautious." Who would have thought she'd pull the online dating trick? Her voice was too soft. I didn't catch everything she said. I turned around, asking, "What did you say? Were you cursing me?" She shook her head. She forced a terribly fake smile and didn't say anything. Damn it! She definitely wasn't saying anything nice. I was still waiting to call my online partner once I got home. I didn't feel like dealing with her anymore. Just as I was leaving, she immediately dialed her friend's number. Her friend was also clever. She quickly came up with a plan for her. Soon enough, the day of our meetup arrived. I put on a suit, and after carefully getting ready, I headed out. On the way to the meetup, I suddenly received a call from Shen Yui's friend. Hello, Chenzi? It's bad news. Shen Yui's been in a car accident, and she's in the hospital being treated. You should go see her. I was shocked at first. Then I paused. Wait a minute, that doesn't add up. She had a car accident. Why are you calling me? Shouldn't you be calling her parents? Her friend's tone was urgent. Her parents are abroad, on a business trip, and her phone's off. I can't reach them. I'm out of town too. You need to go see her right now. So that's what happened. I didn't have time to go to the meetup. I quickly turned around and hailed a taxi to the hospital. I entered the hospital room. When I saw Shen Yue, her entire body was wrapped in bandages, except for her face. She looked like a peculiar mummy. I thought to myself, this driver sure knows how to crash. At least he didn't hurt her face. I walked over to her and asked, "Are you okay?" She blinked her eyes. Suddenly, she hugged me tightly. "Hubby, you're here." I was stunned, my eyes wide open in shock. Did she just call me? As I was still confused, a doctor entered the room. He told me that Shen Yue had lost her memory. She thought I was her husband. He asked me not to provoke her. The wave of information that followed left me completely bewildered. I gently pushed Shen Yue away. I looked her up and down, observing her carefully. She seemed to have turned into a perfect little angel, so unusually obedient. Her hair was neat and shiny. Her lips were rosy and her teeth white. Her eyes sparkled as she looked at me. Gone was the usual disdainful expression. She now looked so endearing. She reached out both hands and said, "Hubby, come here, hug me." I hesitated for a moment. I remembered what the doctor said about not provoking her. With a sigh, I sat beside her and gave her a quick hug. As soon as I finished hugging her, she started asking for a kiss. Before I could react, her warm lips pressed against mine. The kiss left me feeling all tingly as my body gradually relaxed. She placed one hand on the back of my neck. Slowly, she leaned me back. She bent down and softly breathed in my ear. "Hubby, will you kiss me first?" Her eyes were red and moist. She looked so pitiful. Tears had even gathered in the corners of her eyes. I want my husband to kiss me first. I thought to myself, she's really quite pitiful. From childhood to now, though she was always at odds with me. Whenever someone bullied me, she was always the first to charge in. Back in school, a group of delinquents once caused trouble for me. Shen Yue warned those delinquents off. The delinquents wisely backed off. I thought that was the end of it. But then on the way home from school, I saw Shen Yue throw her school bag on the ground. She charged at the delinquents and started fighting them like a madwoman. I was a little worried about her. On the way home, I deliberately slowed my pace. When I saw her coming back, her mouth and cheeks were bruised and swollen. There was a band-aid on her cheekbone. I tugged on my uniform and, before she could say anything, I said thank you. Her face flushed red. Her eyes darted away. She quickly walked past me. She stubbornly muttered, "Thank you, for what?" The delinquents had a grudge against me. I wasn't doing it for you. Though she said that. I wasn't a fool. I knew she was helping me. Thinking about that, I softened for a moment. I said to Shen Yue, "I'll kiss you then, since you're so persistent." She nodded obediently. As soon as I kissed her, she wrapped her arms around my neck and wouldn't let go. She kissed me fiercely and urgently. I was both embarrassed and at a loss. I gripped the bed's edge tightly. I whimpered and struggled a few times. "You naughty girl. I said it would just be one kiss, didn't I? You're forcing yourself on me." She ignored me. Her eyes gazed at me with intense, fiery affection. I froze for a moment. That kind of look. It was like the gaze of a lover who had been loved for many years. In my daze, her palm gently cupped the back of my head. Her warm, soft lips moved on mine, pressing and shifting, gradually sinking deeper. My body, initially struggling, slowly relaxed under her guidance. From shallow to deep, her kiss made my head spin. I even forgot to be angry when she pulled away from my lips. Her nose brushing against mine, I actually heard the sound of my heart pounding. each beat so clear. An idea suddenly popped into my mind. I thought, her amnesia makes her kind of cute right now. If our families weren't enemies, if she didn't always bully me, maybe we could actually be together. Her eyes were filled with longing. She stared at me intently. Her gaze made my face turn bright red. Embarrassed, I pushed her away. I needed an excuse to get out and clear my head. Flustered, I said, "I'll go get you some hot water." I stepped outside for a moment, letting the cool breeze calm me. After regaining some composure, I brought a pot of hot water back to her room. Just as I entered, I heard her talking on the phone with her friend. Through the glass window of the room, I saw Shin Yue sitting with her legs crossed. Her expression was anxious as she asked her friend, "Are you sure pretending to have amnesia will help me win him over? At the last banquet, you had me act all high and mighty, like a cold, distant young lady. But when he saw me, he pulled away even more. It's all your fault. Because of you, I almost lost my husband." I suddenly understood. No wonder at the charity dinner the other day, after not seeing each other for years, she acted all domineering, grabbing my neck and pulling me into her embrace. It even made me trip and fall. She was just pretending to be the domineering lady. Her friend on the other side said, "Don't worry, this time it's foolproof. Guaranteed success." Shin Yue sat up, excited. "Really?" Her friend replied seriously, "Yes, really. I even consulted a master. You just wait to get married." What a daring teacher, what a willing pupil. I gritted my teeth in anger. Damn Shen Yue, to think she pretended to have amnesia and tricked me, taking advantage of me. I even softened and took care of her. I couldn't suppress my anger anymore. With all my rage building up, I kicked the door open. "Did your friend forget to tell you that I'm capable of exposing your lies? I'm going to shatter your little act." Shen Yue froze. Her phone fell from her hand. "Hubby, wait, let me explain." Shen Yue quickly stood up and grabbed my arm. I was furious beyond reason. I forcefully shoved her off me. "Don't touch me." "Still pretending, huh? Who's your husband? Are you addicted to this? Using this childish, sick game to play with me? You've gone too far. Ever since we were kids, all you've ever done is bully me. What else are you good for? Where did I ever wrong you?" Shen Yue rushed toward me in a panic. She carefully grasped the corner of my clothes. "I'm sorry. I know you're going to meet your online boyfriend." I was panicking. It was all Ji Ran's idea. I shouldn't have listened to her. But Shen Yue was only getting more upset, blaming Ji Ran for everything. She doesn't know. The phone hadn't hung up yet. Ji Ran's voice came through, shouting angrily at Shen Yue. "Damn you! I spent quite a bit of money finding a master to help you with your fortune, and now everything's exposed. Are you going to blame it all on your sister?" I'm still talking with his friend. He's talking to Shai how to vent. Like hell, I'll keep talking now. Ji Ran had grown up with Shen Yue since childhood. She was a wild, flirtatious woman. Both of them were no good. I didn't understand how a rational man like Shai how could end up with a slick talker like Ji Ran. I was so furious that I pried Shen Yue's hands off me. Without looking back, I left. I couldn't be bothered to say another word to her. My head was spinning with anger. On the way, I realized I had left my wallet in Shen Yue's hospital room. I quickly hailed a cab and headed back to retrieve it. As I reached the door to the ward, I found Ji Ran inside. I wasn't fond of Ji Ran, so I decided to wait for them to leave before I went in. I was about to turn away when I overheard Ji Ran ask Shen Yue, "Was it worth it? You've liked Chen Zi for so long, but he doesn't have you in his heart at all." At that moment, I was still stunned by the deception Shen Yue had played on me. My brain couldn't catch up. What did Ji Ran's words mean? She said Shen Yue liked me, but Shen Yue gave me the feeling that she was more like a grade school bully picking on her desk mate. It was childish, and she always seemed to enjoy making trouble for me. She treated me more like an enemy than someone she liked. Then I heard Shen Yue reply to Ji Ran with a deep, serious kiss, and it was strange. I was always the smart and excellent kid in everyone else's eyes. But when it came to the person I liked, I was incredibly clumsy. I always tried to talk to her calmly, but every time I ended up making her mad. It was always the opposite of what I wanted. Back when we were studying together, I thought, should I just confess my feelings to her? I want to tell her I like her. But she didn't seem to think highly of me. I was afraid that if I told her, she'd think I was cheap, and that would make her hate me even more. There was this time when she liked another boy, and I got jealous. I made her cry. She called me an idiot and told me never to appear in front of her again. I didn't know what to do. If I stayed close to her, I would only make her hate me more. So one transferred schools, but I couldn't bring myself to fully leave her behind. Those years, I would go to her school gate just to get a glimpse of her from afar, and it felt like enough. Shinyue let out a deep sigh. It was just like today. I made her angry again. I really don't know what to do. I feel like I have no way of handling this. I tried to get close, but I'm afraid she hates me more. And when I try to distance myself, I'm also afraid that someone else will steal him away. Ji-ran leaned against the wall and sneered coldly. There are plenty of fish in the sea. Being overly obsessed never ends well. Love that isn't returned. What's the point? You're still in love with her, Mom? How shameless. But Shen Yue smiled faintly. When my dad was young, he liked Chen Zi's mom, but he didn't pursue her. Chen uncle ended up being the one who pursued her. When I was a kid, I didn't understand. But when I grew up, I asked my dad, if you couldn't be with the one you loved, wouldn't you regret it? My dad said he had already let go. He and my mom are together now, and it's good. They complement each other's personalities. All that so-called regret fades away over time. But later, when looking back, maybe if I tried harder back then, maybe if I'd cared more about the other person, I wouldn't feel regret. Ji-ran furrowed her brows. What do you mean? Shenyue continued, my dad told me, meeting someone you like in life is rare. If you meet them, then try to win their heart. Don't leave yourself with regrets. I was born in the South. I've never been to the North. I like Chen Yi. He doesn't have to return my feelings. I just long for the North. I just like him. It has nothing to do with the North. There's no shame in it. If I give it my all and still can't win his heart, then I'll just wish him happiness. I'll wish he finds someone who loves him. That way, I can rest easier. Ji-ran cursed, you idiot. You're the heir of the Song family. You can have any man you want. Poor girls play the fool because they can't offer a man anything else. Don't be so foolish with your feelings. Shenyui's tone became serious. No, it's because I have money. I have everything. That's why I don't need to weigh the pros and cons. I only need to think about whether I love him or not. Ji-ran, the frivolous socialite, didn't understand Shen Yue's perspective at all. She lowered her eyes and looked at Shen Yue, sister. Why are you so obsessed with Chen Zi? I really don't understand. Our circle has plenty of men who are more handsome than him. Why do you have to fixate on him? Shenyue turned her head and looked out the window. Her voice was soft. When you love someone, there's no need for a reason. Love doesn't follow logic or rules. It's just that the moment I met him, or at some point while being with him, I suddenly felt my heart race, and I just liked him. There's no reason. Some people try to avoid it, but I chose to face my feelings and let myself fall. That's all there is to it. Ji-ran shook her head. Forget it, I'm not going to try and change your mind. She patted Shen Yue's shoulder. Now that it's gotten this far, Chen Zi will probably never pay attention to you again. Once the bandages are off, let's go. This time, consider it me giving you a terrible idea. I'm sorry for you. I stood frozen at the gate. They opened the door, and we collided head on. I knew that Shen Yue liked me, and she liked me so genuinely. Various complex emotions had long since become a tangled mess in my heart. I didn't know what to say in that moment. My gaze shifted awkwardly. My palms were dripping with sweat. I pointed to the table, my voice stumbling. I was about to grab the money. Ji-ran noticed and said, I still have things to do. I'll leave first. Sis, can you send Chen Zi off for me later? Shen Yue nervously clenched her hands. She blinked rapidly and looked at me in confusion. She froze for a moment. Then, without hesitation, she ran to grab my wallet. She handed it to me obediently. Can I send you off? She was afraid I would get angry. Her voice was hesitant, speaking cautiously. Her hand that was passing me the wallet trembled uncontrollably. I took the wallet from her, nodded silently. She smiled, her lips curving in joy. The way back was awkward. After knowing that Shen Yue liked me, the usual rivalry I had with her, that sharp, combative energy, was gone. The atmosphere grew strangely subtle. It was silent for a while. Shen Yue's long fingers tightly gripped the steering wheel. She hesitated and said, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have lied to you. I'm not someone who enjoys being difficult. I just didn't know how to face her feelings. After a moment of silence, I turned my head to look out the car window. I'm sorry. Right now, I can't give you any response. Shen Yue gave a bitter smile. It's fine. She focused on driving. The light outside. Her eyes subtly glowed with a hint of red. Tears sparkled in them. In the years that followed, Shen Yue never bothered me again. As the only daughter of the Song family, she inherited the family business. As the one in charge, she was decisive in her actions. Soon, she led the Song Corporation to go public. People in the industry all said she was young and accomplished. Her methods were sharp and effective. When I heard this, I smiled faintly. She really was the same Shen Yue I knew. Indeed. Perhaps she had always been outstanding, or perhaps it was just that she was immature with me. As for me, I also inherited the Chen family business. These past 4 years, I've been swamped with work. The matter of my online dating partner. Since that time Shen Yue pretended to have amnesia, we lost contact. It's strange to think about. In these 4 years, every birthday, there would always be a bouquet of roses at my doorstep, accompanied by an anonymous card. The first year, the card said, "My youth was truly ordinary, but loving you made it passionate." The second year, the card read, "I dream the same dream every night. One day in the dream, you hugged me." The third year, the card said, "Dear Prince, may you be free of disasters, and may Luo be safe." The fourth year, it simply said, "Thank you for appearing in my life. It's enough." I carefully placed the cards in a box. Tonight, there's a business gala. I heard Shen Yue will be attending. At the banquet hall, she sat on the sofa, in an exquisite haute couture dress. Her legs crossed naturally. She was completely exposed to the light. The delicate lines of her profile looked especially enchanting under the lights. She was still beautiful, but her eyes no longer held the innocence and freedom they once had. They had become indifferent, cold. I couldn't help but wonder, when she wasn't in front of me, did she always carry that cold, distant look with everyone else? I found myself lost in thought when I heard a man trying to approach her with clear intentions, only to be stopped by someone nearby. Don't mess with Shen Yue. She's ruthless and hates men getting close to her. Don't provoke her or she pull your investment. Before, some young lady from a prominent family tried to seduce her, and Shen Yue withdrew her investment immediately. Stay in your lane. Someone like her, a proud figure at the top, certainly doesn't care about romantic matters. I raised an eyebrow. The world had quite a high opinion of her, it seemed. Gen Z. I heard someone calling my name from behind. When Shen Yue heard my name, she froze for a moment. She instinctively turned around, following the sound of my voice. Everyone noticed when Shen Yue looked at me. Her expression shifted from aloof indifference to visible fluster. I spoke to her across the crowd, saying casually, "Long time no see." I remembered the last time we hadn't seen each other in years. It was her who had said, "Long time no see." Time had passed, and now it was me who had made the first move. Shen Yue suddenly stood up, too flustered, her long legs tripping over the corner of the table, almost causing her to fall. She stumbled, rushing to me, her hands fumbling in nervousness. She clenched her fingers, taking a long moment to compose herself. Long time no see. In the banquet hall, all eyes were on the two of us. The murmurs never stopped. I felt a little awkward, pointing to the outdoor balcony. "Shall we go somewhere to talk?" I remembered that night at the party, when she had pulled me onto the balcony and onto the sofa. I couldn't help but smile. We reached the outdoor balcony. I rested my hands on the transparent glass railing. Shen Yue leaned beside me. Across from us, the riverbank was lit up in a sea of lights. Suddenly, colorful fireworks burst into the sky. Shen Yue softly asked, "How have you been?" I turned to her, smiling, knowing exactly what she was asking. Over the past 4 years, she often stood alone beneath my villa, looking up at my window. Her graceful figure remained there for long stretches of time. Shen Yue, caught by my words, felt her face flush deeply. In her eyes, I saw a flicker of helplessness. I just wanted to see your shadow from afar. I lowered my gaze. "Every year, the flowers are from you, right?" A soft breeze lifted the strands of hair from Shen Yue's forehead. Her already red face grew even more flushed in the wind. "I didn't want you to dislike me. I didn't sign my name. How did you know?" The card was pretty obvious. I think it'd be hard not to know. On the other side of the river, fireworks bloomed one after another in the night sky. I gently asked, "Would you like to date me?" I raised my eyelids, looking at her. I stared into Shen Yue's eyes. I'm with you. The halo of the fireworks reflected on Shen Yue. She stood frozen for a long moment. Finally, her excitement turned her ears bright red. She gazed at me in confusion, unable to believe it, and gently pressed her hands on my shoulders. Are you saying you want to be with me? Before I could speak, she pressed herself tightly into my embrace. Her warm breath brushed past my ear. It was enough to make my face burn and my heart race. Her voice was teasing. I won't let you back out. You can't change your mind. I held her tightly, our hearts pounding as one. I slowly spoke. I won't change my mind. All these years, no matter how time passed, no matter how many tests we went through, her love for me remained unchanged, especially in these 4 years. Since I took over the Chen family business, I struggled to establish my place in the vast business world. Many of the shareholders resisted me. She didn't just send me roses. It was Shen Yue who silently helped me in countless ways. But when I was at my lowest, with an empty heart, when I was about to give up, she planted a rose that healed me and gave me new life. My heart isn't made of stone. To meet someone who has always had only me in her heart, and who has always chosen me, I'm deeply moved. I loosened my grip on her slender waist, gently cupping her face in my hands, and softly kissed her lips. From now on, you have to be good. She blinked her innocent eyes, nodding vigorously, promising to be good. I won't make you angry. Really? I purposely teased her. I heard that recently, a man tried to get too close to you. Shen Yue was horrified. She immediately raised her hand, swearing, I swear, he came onto me. My assistant pushed him away right away. He didn't even touch me. I'm still clean. I gently patted her head. You're so nervous. I was just teasing you. She sighed deeply in relief, then curved her lips into a bright, radiant smile. I asked, why are you so happy? Because I like you. What do you like? I like you. You like me too. It felt like a dream. She suddenly shook her head. No. In the dream, I could only imagine you hugging me. I never dared to wish for you to like me. I smiled and held her hand. Girlfriend. We held hands and walked home. It wasn't a short distance, but somehow it felt like we reached home almost immediately. Time passed so quickly. In the previous second, we were still hugging and unwilling to part. In the next second, my father opened the door. I quickly pushed Shen Yue away, panicking as I fixed my hair. My father saw Shen Yue, his face looking more unpleasant than a public restroom. He furrowed his brows and asked, how come you two came back together? You're not involved with that girl from the Song family, are you? I was afraid my dad would get angry. He absolutely despised the Song family. I turned my back to my father and winked at Shen Yue, signaling her to play along. I pretended to be angry. Such bad luck. It's rare I don't take the car, and now I run into you on a walk. Fate's cruel. I walked up to my father and hooked my arm through his, saying we just happened to bump into each other. I arrogantly lifted my chin and asked Shen Yue, right? Shen Yue hesitated. It was obvious. She wanted to clarify our relationship, but was afraid it would upset me. She reluctantly nodded. Yes. My dad grunted, that's more like it. We went home together, and my dad started ranting about the Song family again. He said the father and daughter from the Song family were no good. They're not just bad, they're really bad. I didn't know what to say. These words, I'd heard them so many times since I was little. My ears were practically calloused. I also wasn't sure if my dad just didn't know how to curse. But every time he badmouthed the Song family, it was always the same few lines. My dad looked at me seriously and said, stay away from them. Do you hear me? I nodded immediately. When I got back to my room, I lay on the bed, tossing and turning, thinking, this couldn't continue like this. The next day, I arranged to meet my buddy, Shai Hao. I wanted to ask for his opinion. In the private room of a cafe, I was about to tell Shai Hao that I was with Shen Yue. I wanted to ask him how to handle the relationship between my father and the Song family. But to my surprise, Shai Hao spoke first. We're getting married with Ji Ran next month. Remember to come. He took a sip of his coffee. His tone was calm, as if he were announcing something trivial. I was stunned, my pupils shrinking in shock. Shai Hao was a clear-headed and rational man. He wasn't a love-struck fool. He was smart. I had thought he was just playing around with Ji Ran. There's no way they were actually going to get married. He knew better than anyone what Jiran was really like. I remembered that year in the hospital. Jiran's awful attitude toward relationships. I had advised Shai Hao. She's just a flirt. Completely unreliable. You need to think this through. Marriage isn't a joke. Choosing the wrong person will make you regret it for a lifetime. But in response to my advice, Shai Hao remained calm. Do you know why I chose Jiran out of all the arranged marriage candidates? I frowned in confusion. I don't. But no matter who I choose, they're still better than Jiran. Shai Hao said nonchalantly, because she's clearly messed up. And we have one thing in common. After marriage, we'll stay out of each other's way. She'd do her thing. I'll focus on my career. I'd rather have a marriage where we don't pretend to be happy than one where we fake harmony. I'll make sure we both have clear financial agreements before marriage. I won't take a penny from her. She can't take a penny from me either. Shai Hao gave me a puzzled look. He said, you and I are different. I don't imagine finding true love or spending my life with someone I like. Let's put it this way. The chance of meeting true love is like winning the lottery. You just happen to win. And I'm just a thank you for playing. Not every man is lucky enough to meet his own Shen Yue. My expression froze. A flash of surprise crossed my face. How do you know that I'm with Shen Yue? Shai Hao tapped his phone. Check your moments. I confusedly opened my moments feed. Shen Yue had gone crazy, posting 10 updates in a row to show off. The pictures included a shot of me in school uniform from back in the day. There was no photo of us together. She'd even edited a picture of us into a composite. Her caption read, so happy. Feels like a dream. Friends in her circle commented, sis, you're spamming. She replied, how did you know we're together? Someone else commented, the picture is edited, right? Her reply, yes, but we're together. I even saw a shocking comment. Holy crap, you're straight? You stayed away from men for so long. I thought you were a lesbian. And the most outrageous thing, Shen Yue's dad even liked the post. Jiran left a comment with a clueless emoji. Sis, don't be too spicy. I awkwardly rubbed my forehead and chuckled. She's not all there, is she? Shai Hao smiled faintly. Cute, don't you think? Oh, right. Shai Hao continued. Why did you call me today? I shared my troubles with him. He raised an eyebrow. Why not let Shen Yue handle it? Trust me, she can handle it just fine. She's really good at dealing with things. I've worked with her a few times. I genuinely admire her. For many things. She might be worried about your feelings. That's why she hasn't stepped in yet. If she's posting about you on moments, it means she has a plan. As soon as Shai Hao finished speaking, I got a message from Shen Yue. I need to talk to you about your dad. Can you let me handle it? I promise I won't put you in a difficult spot. I replied, confused. What do you mean? How will you handle it? She replied immediately, are you home now? I'll visit your house and talk to your dad. I have a way. I turned off my phone and told Shai Hao, I have to go. I'll talk to you later. Before I left, I asked Shai Hao, don't you think it's regretful to marry someone you don't love? Shai Hao chuckled, regret is normal. It's a part of life. Instead of dwelling on it, it's better to be optimistic and carefree. Don't worry about me. I'm stronger and clearer than you think. With that, I didn't say anything more. I respected his choice. I rushed back home. Just as I arrived at the door, I saw Shen Yue and her dad. Holding a gift, they stood at the door. I couldn't imagine what would happen. When my dad sees her, the one person he hates the most, I'm sure he's going to blow up. I politely greeted Uncle Song. Shen Yue noticed my worrying. She grabbed my hand. Don't worry, I'm here. Leave it to me. I decided to trust Shen Yue. I was all in. I opened the door and led Shen Yue and her dad into the living room. My dad was watering the plants. When he saw the Song family, he dropped the watering can in shock. I told my dad that Shen Yue and I were together. He exploded on the spot. Looking around wildly, he grabbed the wooden stick from the flower stand and stormed into the living room, furious. With all his strength, I couldn't hold him back. He pointed the stick at Uncle Song. You old man, when we were young, you fought me for a wife. Now you're trying to steal my son? You really want to go against me, huh? My dad was on edge. The chaos was about to explode. Just then, my mom heard the noise and came downstairs. When my dad saw her, he hurriedly shoved the stick into my hands and scampered to her side. He acted all obedient, helping my mom. Wife, why did you come down? My mom ignored him and politely nodded to greet the Song family. She turned to my dad. Was that you shouting just now? My dad quickly waved his hand. Wife, it's a misunderstanding. It was your son who shouted. I was speechless. Looks like I'm taking the fall again. I've gotten used to it. My dad is a softie when it comes to my mom. Since I was little, I've taken the blame for him many times. After my mom came downstairs, my dad's once fiery attitude immediately disappeared. We all sat calmly on the sofa. Shinui explained our situation to my mom, telling her everything.
When I'm with
from
you,
a black briefcase.
although
She took out
I'm
a contract
awkward, but
and
my
several
love for
property
you
certificates and
is
I'm willing
sincere,
to transfer
and
all
that's
the
it.
assets under the Shen family
The
name
end of the
as well
story.
as